Welcome to the I've Created a Monster podcast, a weekly random chat where I chat about random things weekly. I am your host, Roshini, aka Glamazini, out here on the internet. As always, I am live with my patrons. To be live in the chat with me while I'm recording, become a supporting patron at patreon.com/Glamazini. Okay, last week I had one topic, which was the whole TikTok thing about gingers being black. But this week I'm back to the normal fare of all of the categories. So let's do it. First, let's start with personal updates. The headband. Okay, I'm going to go with Pooh Bear. My friend Keisha did my hair for me, and I don't know why I ever get my hair down because I always end up putting it up. Okay. And this headband, I'm not really sure, but it was in the package that I bought. Last week I went with Brown Bear. So I'm going to go with Pooh Bear. Okay. You can barely see it through the curls, but that's where we are right now. Also, as a reminder, this podcast is now weekly and simple AF. Okay. I am just editing it and throwing it up. And that seems to be doing pretty well because last week on YouTube, my video got a lot of views. So welcome if you're watching it on YouTube. Also, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to cuss today. I feel like when I was talking through some of these topics in my brain earlier, I was real cussy. And as I've told you guys in the past, this is a space where I am finding my voice and expressing myself more and more and becoming more integrated with like who I am in real life, and who I am in real life cusses. So if a bad word slip out, you know what I mean? Just take that as a win on my healing journey. Okay, next. My friend recently sent me an AI prompt that is revolutionizing my life. Like to hear it? Here it go. ChatGPT has an update now where it can reference information from all the different chats that you've been talking to it in. Okay. And I use two different AIs predominantly. I was heavy on Claude for a really long time, but recently I kind of brought myself back over to Chatarius GPTs. Okay. And the prompt is, now that you can remember everything that I've typed in here, this is in ChatGPT because now it can do that. Point out my top 5 blind spots. So I threw that in there and Chatarius handed me my whole ass. But because I'm a person that likes light and shadow, by the way, Roshini means light, I went back and asked it the same thing. Now that you can remember everything I've ever typed in here, point out my top 5 superpowers, okay, that I might be missing or overlooking. And then I told Chatarius, GPTs, every single response you ever give me in the future, I want you to point out potential blind spot that I might be missing and a potential superpower that I could be leveraging, and also to give me a reframe for the blind spot. And let me tell you what, it is changing my life. And it's also changing a few things in this podcast. Next, I was telling you guys about trying to up my money, and Facebook in-stream ads is not a good strategy. Okay, right now my money is down. I had switched from uploading things as reels because I was noticing that I was getting more money as an in-stream ad, they make a differentiation between the videos on Facebook, which is really not. It's stupid, honestly. And the money is down this week. So I'm going to abandon that strategy and just not even focus on it that much. However, I do notice that you can still subscribe to my Facebook page as opposed to subscriptions to YouTube, right? Which is just like a free click to say you want to follow me and also up my numbers and also help me with my watch time and also help me get monetized. So if you're watching this on YouTube at Monster Created, hit the subscribe button and help a girl out. Okay. It's foi. It's foi. Come on. This is not monetized. Okay. My Glamazini page is monetized. Over here, I'm just doing this for foi. Okay, and for the love of you and for the love of expression. But on Facebook, when you subscribe, apparently you're paying money, kind of like Patreon. They all have different words. If you're watching this on Facebook and you haven't subscribed, please do. Okay, help a sister out. Okay, because having a kid with special needs is not affordable. Help. Okay, SOS. Now, can I tell you how to subscribe? I used to know how. I don't know how now. And if I can figure out how, I might put a link where the link goes. Okay. Other than that, I don't know, you guys. If you're down for a woman trying to find her voice and express it out into the atmosphere, subscribe on Facebook, which means pay me money. Okay. Thank you very much. Another way that I'm getting my money up is I am following the questions that people ask me. As in, you heard me say, Chatarius, what are my superpowers? One of my core wounds, like my trauma, now we're in therapy with me, okay, is the fact that I don't really notice my superpowers, and apparently I have a lot of them. And I've gotten feedback on that from so many people, and I've done deep dives into therapy, but still, it's a skill that I'm learning. And so one of the ways that I'm starting to notice and recognize the value that I bring in other people's lives is what they ask me for. And I'm following those asks and sending people invoices. I will report back on how that's going in a future podcast. But for right now, listen, invoices are being paid. Come on now. And I have a friend who also happens to be a business coach. Okay. And I didn't ask her to do this. I was talking to her the other day on Zoom, just like casually. And she got all up in my business and was like, girl, you ain't charging enough money. And I know also one of my trauma wounds, huge money. Yeah, just pray for your girl. Okay. She out here trying to level up and heal. Aren't we all? And she looked at my business model and she was like, you need to up your pricing on this and that and the other, and you need to look for this and ask for that. So that is one of the things that I'm doing. And if you are a current free, or what do you guys know on ICAM? If you're over here on ICAM and you don't know this, just know that I am a certified life coach. Okay, so that's the business model that she was talking about. And Chatarius told me when I put that prompt in that I need to tell ICAM more about what I'm doing and how this goes with my need for expression, which I said in like the first podcast, explaining why I came up with this podcast, but I don't harp on it. Chatarius told me to harp on it. Okay, you guys, this is part of my depression is the opposite of expression. And as a person that has a multiple major depressive disorder diagnoses, okay, I gotta speak up. Okay, so this is where I speak up and say what I want to say. All right, moving right along. Patreon, I've been posting a docket, and in the docket, people can ask me questions. So I decided to put the patron questions at the beginning of the podcast. Let's do it. First question was, have I ever heard of Depression Nest on YouTube? It's a YouTuber named Tracy May. No, I never have. I looked her up. Apparently, she is a saddie. Okay, not to be confused with a baddie. She's a saddie. And she's doing videos called Depression Nest about her depression. I didn't watch her videos. I just searched and saw her pop up. So if you are a Black woman that wants to follow the journey of a potential saddie, depressed girl who is also making life happen in the midst of her healing, I guess follow her, because I trust my patrons and they said that it's a good channel. Okay. The next question I got was reading the book called Matriarch by Tina Knowles, which is Beyonce's mom, or whatever I'm reading. I'm not reading anything right now. I have not read the book Matriarch by Tina Knowles. And if you follow me online, you will notice, and I have started to notice, that I have like these bursts where I read like a lot and then I pull back. And I think that that correlates with like the winter and the early spring when I'm like hibernating and nesting. So I'm literally just meandering through the book We Should All Be Millionaires again right now, and slowly meandering through The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And when I say slowly, I mean slowly. And that's really all I'm reading. Next. RIP section. I thought I had nobody to talk about, but I actually do. This is a local human being. On Friday, May 16th, we had some really treacherous storms roll through the St. Louis area. I am living in the St. Louis area, just west of it. EF3 level. I'm not familiar with tornado categorizations. I'm a Virgin Islander, so I'm familiar with hurricanes, okay? But this is a big doozy, okay? At one point, it was a mile wide. It was 20-something miles on the ground, and it went right past me. It boom, boom, cacked right past me out here in the west and landed down smack dab in the city center, very close to my son's hospital that we're down there all the time, like part of the world that I live in. And actually where I used to live way back in the day. Okay. And unfortunately, we lost 5 lives here in St. Louis. One of them was a friend of a friend. Okay. And so rest in peace to Rena or Rena. I don't know how to say her name. Lyles. Unfortunately, she went to church with one of my closest friends. She was a flag ministry participant and a dancer. So, you know, I was as well when I was a church girl. And so that really broke my heart and made it hit home. And apparently, based on the article, she and her husband were holding hands. Brace yourself, you guys. This is sad. She and her husband were holding hands because the sirens didn't go off. Okay. And yesterday, I think I saw the mayor. I think it's the mayor. I don't know. I feel like the lady who I thought was the mayor, who was a black woman, got voted out. So maybe this white woman was the mayor. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. Okay. She was like, human error. The sirens didn't go off. So anyway, there weren't any sirens. So this tornado's coming, and I'm going to say Rena and her husband were holding hands trying to run to the basement for cover. And the tornado hit. It threw him forward toward the basement, but it threw her backward toward the bedroom, you guys. They were holding hands. And when it threw her backward toward the bedroom, a dresser landed on her, and then the whole house collapsed, or partially collapsed, or whole house. And the house is the only house she's ever lived in. This is what I saw in the article. And the house is a house she inherited when she was like 9. So it's super heartbreaking. She has multiple children. Her husband survived and he is heartbroken. They were married for 25 years. And so just pray for the family of Rena Lyles, and pray for my friend who is her friend, who is also a dance ministry and participant and flagger. They went to the same church. It is very heartbreaking. And if I can figure out ways for you to contribute, I will put links to where the links go. You guys, I just stop with my patrons because I be having myself shrunk down on the screen so I'm not staring at myself. But something told me the gloss that I just put on had betrayed me and was bunching in my mouth while I was talking to y'all. Ew, I'm so sorry if you were looking at that. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm going to shrink myself again, but I hope I don't. I'm going to check in between sections. Next. As I've told you guys, I was not looking forward to this podcast because I had started it right before Negative 92 got elected, and I didn't think about that. I really didn't think this thing through. Okay. And so I felt like I had to keep coming in here and talking about ridiculous politics things. And then I realized, listen, I'm the one doing the podcast. I could talk about whatever. You could have whatever you like. And so I decided to pull back on some of the ridiculousness. Okay. But there are 2 politics topics that I will be covering today. Let's do it. Apparently, the Department of Homeland Security is contemplating a reality show where immigrants compete for American citizenship. Yeah. So it would have culture challenges for U.S. citizenship, and the producer pitched it to them several years ago, and they are actually contemplating it. They're vetting it. No, this is not a joke. This is actual real people who have applied and are in the system would be on a filmed reality show. They're actually considering that. Next. Former President Joe Biden was diagnosed with stage 9 aggressive bone metastasizing prostate cancer recently. Okay. And I saw a video, I'm talking about it in a while, of conspiracies flying that it was something that they were hiding. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a while but my heart goes out to him because, listen, this man has been working hard for our country since Jan, okay? Working harder than me and probably working harder than you. I don't care whether you agree with everything the man has done in his ridiculously long career and how he has moved, okay? But you have to at least give the man that you're impressed for the dedication to the cause. I'm not even saying I agree with everything the man has done and how he's moved, but the dedication to the cause and to work yourself to the end. Remember, he had said he wasn't running again because he was heartbroken when his son passed away. And then when he felt like the country needed him, he swooped back in and he did it. And you could see that he was deteriorating. And then to finally get to sit down somewhere, and in 2.5 seconds be diagnosed, I couldn't even come up with the word, with stage 9. I didn't even know there was a stage 9. Stage 9 cancer? Stage 9? Okay. When like his recent physical shows no sign of it, that just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for him. I wish the man had got an opportunity to rest. It breaks my heart for Jill, his wife. Girl, y'all. Anyway, prayers go out to President Biden. with this new diagnosis. And that's all I'm talking about with politics, you guys. Now let's move on to pop culture. So last week I did a one topic video, and like you heard me say, it did amazingly on YouTube. Last time I checked, it had like 600 and something views. I don't know how much it has right now. If you're watching, hey, you guys, and I got some new subscribers. Hi, hey, I'm Roshini. Nice to meet you. Okay, here are my updates. First of all, I saw the blacks on TikTok may have retracted y'all's eligibility because somebody in your situation with red hair was tripping. I didn't see the tripping person's video, but in last week's video, I told y'all not to mess it up. Okay. I told y'all, listen, I don't invite anybody to imaginary cookouts. Okay. I saw some person in my comment section on YouTube crashing the heck out. Okay. And I actually applaud that kind of stuff. Back in the day when I used to try to have these conversations on the internet, and people used to be crashing out and calling me everything but a child of God because they didn't understand when I was saying stuff like black and white, lowercase black, lowercase white are social constructs. And I didn't even have the vocabulary to express the difference between like racial constructs versus like ethnicity and culture. I didn't. But I was right. I look back and I was like, I was right. Okay. And people were just crashing out and calling me everything but a child of God. And back then I remember trying to have the conversation, realizing that nobody seemed to be capable of, at least nobody in my comment section that came to my comment section was capable of having the complex and nuanced conversation, getting sick and tired of seeing the comments and just like unlisting the video. But not now. Okay. That was me. Listen, I'm breathing on 50's neck. Okay. That was me back in the day when I didn't have the nervous system to support this. Now, when I see somebody crashing out and calling something, my take on the gingers is black stuff that I put in a very long one topic video with many different complex thoughts, and they're crashing out in my comments. All I think about is one, Cat Williams telling me that I should have more haters by the summer. And since we're in May, I'm right on track. And two, I don't spend, and y'all hear me say I'm almost 50. I don't spend any time anymore because I spend a lot of my time, okay, speaking to people who are unwilling or incapable of calmly having complex conversations. Because listen, you heard me say I didn't have the nervous system for it back in the day, and they don't have it right now. So what I look like engaging with you, okay? What I look like, and plus it's engagement. Remember, I said it would be awesome if I could monetize my YouTube channel. So listen, go ahead and hate, comment, and hit that you don't like button. Okay? I don't think I can see it because YouTube took that off, but you engage. Okay? Crash out. You go for it. All right. Next. A man in Ohio checked out 100 books from the library, right? That sounds really productive. Like he's really trying to get his education on. The book topics included things like being Jewish, things about Jewish culture, things about African American culture, Black people, okay? And ligabuktois. And what do I mean by that? I mean LGBTQIA+, okay? But I like to pronounce it. Ligabuktois. Okay. I always say ligabuktois, which is not exactly the thing, but you know what I mean. Okay. It's just fun. It's fun. Okay. Like the ligabuktois people. Okay. This man checked out 100 books and then had the audacity to post videos showing him burning the books. But this man is burning the book. Y'all, it is 2025 and we are living in a time where people are burning books. Like in the history books. Am I the only person when you were a kid, you were growing up and you would read these things in the history books and you were thinking, oh, thank God, whoo, we got past that. And then it's so disconcerting when you get into like your lived life and you realize we didn't get past that. People doing that ridiculousness right now. What? And then he had went in there and said he was checking the books out. Lies. Okay, you're a liar. I don't know why you're burning books when you're a horrible person. Maybe you should work on not lying. But the man went in and lied and said that he was researching for his ligabuktois kid. That's why he needed all them books. So you're a horrible human being. You're a hate crimer. You're a book destroyer. You hate complex thought and education. You're undifferentiated and a partridge in an effing pear tree. Okay. And now... Anyway, the library billed him $1,700 for the books that he was burning up, okay? And local churches have launched, thank goodness, okay? Thank goodness for churches showing up in a godly way, have launched a campaign to donate Over 1,000 new books back to the library in response. But you know what's fascinating about this? People like this think they are doing something good, but in their doing, they show us how evil and horrible they are. Think about that. You walk in with intention, you lie, you pull them out, and you burn it for what purpose? What was the reason? I don't know what the reason was, but what you accomplished was showing us that you are the thing that you think you are coming against. And that's why I say I don't spend time having conversations with people that can't think critically anymore. Okay. I spent a lot of years having low hanging fruit conversations with low hanging fruit people. And I know that sounds judgmental, but I told y'all need to help me figure out how to say it better, because tiptoeing around trying to say it in a nice way is exhausting to my brain now. And I'm too old. You know how the old people that get old and just say whatever they want to? I feel like I'm there already. I'm tired. Okay. And so like, what? Anyway, next, the largest antebellum plantation burned down on the evening of May 15th. You see my face? Apparently, Nottoway Resort, and I'm going to call it what it says on Google, because if you Google it, it does not say Nottoway Plantation. It says Nottoway Resort. Was the largest remaining, still standing, still used antebellum plantation. And it exists in Louisiana. Yeah. And for some reason, last Thursday, that sucker went up in flames. They still haven't figured out what happened. I found out because people started sharing AI images of the ancestors like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman cheesing in front of a burning building. And I was like, what's going on? So I went to Google's and I saw that it was burning as I Googled. It was burning as I Googled. That thing burned for hours. It was like 18, 20 hours in and it was still burning. Okay. Them suckers tried everything to stop the burning, but the 64 room, okay, 53,000 square foot. Now, why would you need a 53,000 square foot house? Opulence with all kinds of things flown in from all over the planet, built in the 1850s, with the blood, sweat, and tears of enslaved people. This man, I think he had 150 slaves. Okay. Them suckers was still running it. Still having weddings and events there. Them suckers got Airbnb in cabins out the back. And I don't know if the cabins are new cabins that they built or refurbished slave cabins. What? Okay. The cabins still, the other buildings still exist, but the main building got burned to the ground. Okay. Burned to the ground. And because I live in St. Louis and because it started on Thursday night and then the storms went through on Friday, I was more concerned with the storms than I was with the burning, although I did check and see that it was still burning. And then I saw like people were setting up across the street. I saw young Black women taking selfies with it. Listen, once again, the thought that we are in 2025 and things that you thought that were obviously left in the past are not left in the past. They're here right now. I have had that disorientation in my personal life and I have had to learn. Okay. Lots of therapy, lots of confusion and disbelief, stages of grief where you're just like denial. This can't be happening. Obviously we all can see how harmful and horrible this is. The fact that Nottoway was billing itself as a resort, you guys. A slave plantation. Let me tell y'all a story. When I first started dating my husband and we were in Tallahassee, Florida, I, being a Virgin Islander, am aware of things, but I'm new into like Southern culture and I don't kind of know that stuff. I love history. I think things are beautiful, but I'm always like a little weary because I know of American Southern culture and it's linked to slavery, right? So he took me out to eat and we pull up to this place and I don't know the name of the place. I'm not paying attention. And the place had this beautiful tree. And I was like, oh, this tree is so pretty. And it was like uplit and it was beautiful. And I looked at the tree and I was just like, This is going to be morbid. I'm not, but I'm telling you the truth. Remember, this is expression. Being a Virgin Islander, I looked up at the tree, and the first thought I had was, I wonder if anybody ever got from this tree. You know, southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood on the root. Okay, that was the first thought. It was beautiful, and the stuff was blowing. The like vines were blowing, and I just it reminded me of things I had seen in history books and in documentaries. And then we go into the place to eat, you guys, and the place was called something plantation. Now remember, I was just along for the ride. I was a passenger princess, and he was young, so I don't know if he even put two and two together. Okay, we were both young. But I went in there and I remember ordering my food and looking around, and there was like stuff on the walls, like implements, tools. And I remember eating and thinking, am I in a plantation? Like, do they mean plantation figuratively, or do they mean an actual plantation that these people had the audacity to convert to a restaurant? And I remember I was in my 20s and I was confusioned. Okay. I sat there and I was so like, what is happening? It felt out of body. It felt otherworldly. And so I'm assuming that Nottoway, I don't even know the name of this place. I'm going to ask him what it was called if he remembers. It was so long ago. And Nottoway was a resort. And the idea that people don't see the issue with that is what's wild to me. The idea that in 2025, every place is not operating like Whitney Plantation. When you go to NOLA to New Orleans and Whitney Plantation is down there elevating the enslaved people. Okay. Is wild work to me. Okay. And I'm not going to lie. When I saw that thing burning, I had two thoughts. I wish that you could let it burn. And no, I'm not a singer. Okay. That's what I thought. I don't know. Let it burn. Let it burn. You didn't come here for songs. Okay. I'm not a songstress. And then the next thought I had is very similar. God don't need no matches, fire by itself. God don't need no matches, fire by itself. Oh, God don't need no matches, fire by itself. Fire, fire. God don't need no matches. Let it burn. Next. As you heard me say, on Friday, May 16th, St. Louis and surrounding areas, which is where I live, experienced a EF3 level tornado touchdown back near in the city center. Okay. If you are not from St. Louis and you don't understand like the layout, that don't happen. I saw people online say like, we don't get tornadoes in here. And I think that contributed to the death toll, which is 5 people, unfortunately, because people who live west of the city, like me, we are out here in the suburbs and stuff, you know, urban sprawl and all that crap. And so it is much more likely for us to be aware that we are out here just sitting ducks. But for some reason, the tornado activity has a tendency to like really hit the less populated areas. I don't know if it's topography. I don't know if it's heat generated by the city. I don't know. And people in the city are often like chilling, okay? Because it always goes above and below them. You guys, this tornado skipped right on over me here in the west of St. Louis. I kid you not. I was sitting here typing. I looked out the window. It was sunny. 5 minutes later, it was boom, boom, cack, 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 boomity, cack, cack, cack. I looked at the radar. I was like, it was the thinnest line. 10 minutes later, sun was back out. And that was really all it was. Wind, boom, boom, cack, sun was back out. That same line went in further east than me, touchdown, mile-wide tornado at one point, 26 miles on the ground, blazed straight up the middle of the St. Louis. Like if you look at the St. Louis map, just a line straight up the middle. Wild. Okay. Unfortunately, it hit the abundant and the people without money in the same pace. Okay. I saw some fascinating videos. I was a little confused because being a person who lived through hurricanes and who has a lot of PTSD about storms, I've lived in a house in Hurricane Hugo, 1989, that the roof came off while I was in it and I had to run for my life. I've been in a house, I've been in an apartment fire. Ironically, the apartment fire I had was down there where the tornado hit. Okay, in a building down there. I saw people filming at their window during the tornado. I saw a woman filming and said, "Oh, it's a tornado," and ran toward the window and then screamed and acted shocked when the windows blew in. I'm hoping that, unfortunately, we can educate this region a little bit more, especially people in the city, about safety measures for storms, and to like not do stuff like that. Because some of the stuff that I saw in videos that people posted was dangerous before the thing hit. And I want people to be safer, okay? And my heart breaks because it is devastating out there. Clearly, there's a lot of tree damage, but also a lot of the older brick buildings collapsed, roofs came off, a lot of things that were very triggering to me because they reminded me of living in hurricanes in the Virgin Islands. And my heart goes out to people who have lost everything, people who have lost lives. 5 lives were lost. People who have lost clearly possessions, damage. I've seen so much. And so pray for St. Louis. And if you have any way to assist, and if I find a reputable way to assist, which I do know a friend whose church is really like doing things. And so I'm working through her to contribute myself. And remember how I always say the Black Women Healing Fund is sourced by the Patreon who are here watching this live. I'm actually giving money through the Black Women Healing Fund to Black women who are affected by this storm. Okay. I got a couple things in the works right now. And so if you want to give to the fund, and even if you don't want to give through the fund, I will try to put links where links go for you to be able to support St. Louis. Please pray for St. Louis. People were not expecting that. And a lot of people got blasted out of nowhere, no sirens, no nothing, and also not expecting that to happen. Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is Black fatigue. You heard me, Black fatigue. So apparently white people on TikTok have tried to co-opt the term Black fatigue. Okay. They are co-opting it as a way of saying that they have finally figured out the words that they need to use to express how tired they are of having to deal with Black people. I'm sorry. Now, this is so on brand and so predictable that the few videos I watched, I was like, what in the low critical thinking skills is this? What in the immature emotional and communication development is this? I told you guys, I'm trying to do better in figuring out how to process and classify these things, but it's really hard when people aren't giving you, like I said, it's hard to give people the benefit of the doubt when people don't give you anything to doubt. I watched a few handful of these videos, but then I stopped because I didn't want my timeline to be flooded with them because, you know, TikTok will pick it up. And every white person I watched talking about their Black fatigue, which we're going to get into that term in a second, they weren't showing critical thinking skills that critically thunk, okay? They were revealing themselves to be horrible people with simplistic emotional development and critical thinking skills. Let me cook here, okay? Black fatigue is a term from a book by, let me see if I can find the author's name, Mary Frances Winters. She came out with the book in 2020, and the book Black Fatigue was about the exhaustion that Black people have from living in a country, in a system that was not created for their benefit, right? It's tiring. It's exhausting. And if you're a Black person, you know that. So the book was called Black Fatigue because Mary was wise enough and has a complex thinking skill pattern enough. Stop saying that, Roshini. That's not kind. But I don't know if I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying to be expressive. Okay, so just let me cook. Mary called it Black fatigue because it's the fatigue that we have in the system, right? It's not about anybody else. Ain't nobody trying to blame anybody else. It's not about, you know, trying to put it on people. It's just centering the exhaustion from living in a system that is constantly trying to build things on your back, use you as a capital in capitalism, but is not designed for your benefit. Yeah, yeah. So think about how on brand it is for people who are socialized as white, which I believe is different than descended from Europeans. Okay. There's clearly overlap because of the physical reasons why people get lumped into whiteness. But, if, like I said, if you don't have the concept of whiteness as a social construct down, this might not be the podcast for you, because I just assume you can think that way and move on. And if you don't, I'm not going to explain it to you. Okay. There's too much literature out there, but that's not what this is for. Okay. Think about how on brand it is for people who are socialized in whiteness and who like a good colonization to colonize a term that is supposed to talk about the exhaustion that Black people face living in a system not designed for them, to take the term from us. I'm sorry, this is. And basically, as this creator on TikTok, Amy Chen, said, rebrand their white rage. They take the term, they colonize the term and rebrand their white rage and basically say, no, we're tired. We're tired of having to deal with you guys. And it's just, and like I said in the previous thing about like the guy with the books, you're showing who you are without realizing it. You're reframing the harm that white socialization has caused and actually doing the very thing that causes the fatigue. And then you're reframing it as some discovery. Okay, like I just discovered it. And here's the thing. I've said this in a previous podcast. Whiteness socializes people to not feel discomfort. I think I said this in the white women wearing blue bracelet. Yeah, I did video, which had another person crashing out. And I was just like, girl, crash. Okay. The crash out is what you're supposed to feel. Because when you are socialized in the hierarchy of whiteness, and there's a lovely woman on TikTok doing this work, Miriam Forster, I'll put a link to her where the links go, deconstructing people who are socialized in whiteness. Okay. A white woman doing this work. When you are socialized in that construct, one of the things that you learn in your hierarchical thinking is when I'm higher up, I should not feel any discomfort. So whenever you feel discomfort, you alley-oop it to something else. And in this case, you feel discomfort by the existence of Black people. Like you're just upset that Black people are here and that you have to consider that you are not the center, right? A lot of the videos I watched were them basically being like upset about the fact that like whiteness wasn't centered. They didn't say this. Okay. This is me saying it this way. How could they be in a space acting this way? That is the reason why is because Black people may show up differently than you. And so you center yourself as what is normal and right. And you other them, you other hair, you other our features, you other the way we speak, you other our joy, you other everything. Okay. And so you see yourself as center, right? I said I was going to do this work. Anyway, you see yourself as center and you other, and now you're exhausted that all those others, all those Blacks and their Black ways of speaking and their Black food and their Black hair and their Black tone. How could they? Why don't they just assimilate to this thing like I did? Why don't they just sell their soul to whiteness like I did? I don't know who I am. I don't have any connection to my cultural roots and my European descendants. I don't have any connection to the music and dance and way that they showed up. I gave that away so that I could exist in this hierarchy, and they need to give it away too, because if they don't give it away, then my sacrifice is it doesn't work, right? My struggle has to mean something. Okay. That's whiteness. Okay. Anyway, if you don't understand that, listen, I don't know. Anyway, it's so on brand to try to rebrand the fact that you have to feel discomfort, which is how everyone else has to show up in the world. This idea that you don't get to feel discomfort, so you've never learned it, which is an immaturity, you're stunted, right? And so you alley-oop it to everybody else. Meanwhile, everybody else is feeling discomfort on a daily basis, metabolizing it, processing it, and moving it through their system, usually having it show up as empathy and understanding and decentering and community support and love and all these beautiful things that happen when you metastasize discomfort, right? Whiteness doesn't let you just metastasize it. It just sits it there and like alley-oops it to other people. So instead of realizing that you are appropriating a term, you rebrand it as an awakening. So you don't have to feel what it feels like to realize that human is the center. White is not. And so it's exhausting. I saw them videos and I was just like, what kind of in 2025, Lord? But at the same time, like I said, it's so on brand and it's so right there. It's right there in front of them. It's through the discomfort, the comprehension that they are once again centering themselves so they don't have to feel their feelings, anesthetizing their uniqueness and their differentiation, and choosing the like assimilated blob of whiteness, and then wondering why other people, all those blacks, why won't you do it too? And it's like, because we don't have to. And you shouldn't have to either. Instead of trying to pull us into your mental prison, free yourself. Okay. Liberation is available for everyone. And based on the election result, the people I saw making them black fatigue videos, y'all, the freedom is not there yet. Okay. The mind is not liberated. And that's really all I have to say about that. Okay. This was another taping of the I've Created a Monster podcast, a podcast sponsored by patreon.com/Glamazzini and the Black Woman Healing Fund, a fund that provides financial support to Black and West Indian women on a healing journey. If you would like to be live in the chat and or support the Black Women Healing Fund, become a patron at patreon.com/Glamazzini. And don't forget to show up, you guys, to speak up, to F something up and create your own monster. Bye.